Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
Do you want to hear a story? I'm not letting go.
Are you ready for this?
Follow your heart.
I'm going in.
This is
Blockbuster Punch-Up.
Welcome to Blockbuster Punch-Up. This is episode 14. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and film enthusiast, Todd G. Levin.
Hi.
And we're also joined by our special guest, Mike Christensen.
Hi.
Guys,
What's going
it is
on?
weird in here now.
Doppelgangers.
I know, as we've said on previous episodes, that Todd and I do this exclusively at sea via weather balloon.
Yes. both at sea and in a balloon.
In a balloon.
In the air.
We're
So
very committed to that format. But we've come back to land for this special episode of Blockbuster Punch-Up, which we're calling Blockbuster Punch-Out.
Yeah.
Because-
See what we did there?
It's like the title of the show, but different.
But different. So clever.
Punch out.
But basically the format is we have Mike here and Todd,
Hello.
who have both seen the same film that we're talking about today that you've probably seen in the title that is the name of the episode.
Yes.
Kingsman. So,
Kingsman, the Secret Service.
Secret Service indeed. Now, Kingsman wasn't always a movie. It was also, I know.
Tell us what it was, Jay.
To believe that movies these days were originally something else other than in a development team.
Wait. You mean that this wasn't an original property that
I
Hollywood
know,
made?
it's surprising, because these days in the
What?
studio system, most
mean
things are original property.
That there are development teams?
Sometimes.
What I'm led to believe.
Movies aren't just born?
Basically, Mike and Todd have both seen the film Kingsman, and both of them have not agreed on how they feel about Kingsman.
And to your point earlier, it is based on a comic.
It is based on a
which
comic.
I haven't read, but you and I have discussed on our other podcasts, Because Comics, we've talked about other works from that same writer.
And it's by, if I understand, Mark Millar and adapted by the same team that did Kick-Ass, right?
Yep.
As an expert on comics,
Yes, Todd, please.
after
We defer.
who, I got stuck with the movie podcast, and these guys, got the Because Comics podcast.
We
and I
actually-
don't know why, really.
We
that
drew
was-
straws, and
It's
you knew.
true, because you...
I got the short straw. But as, after having read such voluminous titles as Only Watchmen, one comic of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Yep.
which are both under the same person.
Yep, Alan
Actually-
Moore.
And then Only Saga, which is a pretty good track record if you
That's
know.
fair.
Yeah,
You're
those are
hitting-
great.
You're hitting on all
books to read.
sixes.
Well, it's because you guys keep feeding me things under the table.
Funny you mentioned Watchmen. The artist of Watchmen drew Secret Service.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's Dave Gibbons who
I
did
didn't
the
know
art.
that.
Yeah, co-creator.
We're all learning things here. So they both saw the movie. It was previously a comic before a movie, so that's why Mike is here. He's got some clout to come into this battle, this
That's right.
punch-out.
My credentials.
Your
I
credentials,
guess.
essentially. Brought him to the door. They looked at it. They thought, okay, you can go
Yeah,
in here.
you know comics.
The weather balloon is large, guys. It's a huge weather
It's
balloon.
a bouncer.
There is a bouncer.
What's the password? I like comics. Okay, you're in.
Mike and Todd today are going to be kind of going at it in our main segment about, we're going to have a roundtable discussion here. We're going to, each are going to present points as to why they think the movie was good, why they think the movie was not so good, and we'll have a nice discussion. I will work as referee here as I just love the opportunity of debate. So as we do with each film though, before we get into any kind of punch up or punch out, we're going to do a film recap. So
And we decided that since Jay's impartial,
Yep.
he's the moderator.
Yes,
He's going to
Jay's
recap.
impartial arc. Really? That's the worst joke we can make on the podcast.
it's the
No.
podcast is young. I mean, we have not gotten to the worst joke yet.
Okay, well,
Now we set
that's
the
why
bar.
I'm here. That's why I'm here.
All right, guys. So let's kick off this recap. So, in general, Kingsman is a film about modern-day knights who work as spies to save the world on a regular basis.
I love it already, even though I've already seen it.
The film opens as two knights and their red-shirted Padawans foil a terrorist plot by pulling a Captain America and jumping on a live grenade.
I understand these jokes.
References.
One red shirt dies while the other metaphorically fist pumps the air as he is named the new Lancelot. But will he get to sleep with Arthur's new wife? No, because we cut to...
Wait, where's that movie?
This is the meta version of this plot. This is great.
We cut to, see what I did there? Cut to him being sliced in half by Sam Jackson's right-hand assassin.
Whoops.
By the way, Mark Hamill is in this movie with a British accent. He dies. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. We meet our hero, Eggsy, a punk kid who loves his mom and sis, but hates his stepdad because he's a jerk.
Well, he's also the son of that first red shirt.
He is the son of the first red shirt that gets killed. That is true. Now enter Colin Firth, who has once again been tasked with finding more red shirts for the red shirter position that is Lancelot. He recruits Eggsy due to Eggsy's red-shirted bloodline, and they embark to an exclusive spy school whose training exercises make crafting death potions at Hogwarts look like safe by comparison. Yes. To everyone's surprise, an attractive girl and Eggsy make it to the final spy task.
What were the odds? Yeah. They were ever in their favor.
This spy task, of course, is one of which that we've seen all the time. James Bond practices it on the regular, which is shooting a dog in the face.
That's right. That is the final test.
That is the final test.
Like, the tests on the way up are like Halo jump. You may not have a parachute.
Survive, water, death, bathroom. They're in a bathroom room, right?
No, they're in their bunk. Their bunk just starts flooding. And then there's things like...
It's a big water... It's a big like, pool tank.
And, like, train a dog the whole time. And once you... Like, graduation is shoot the dog.
Shoot the dog is the final test.
That's how you know you're a spy, Jay.
Yeah, that's how you know.
That's the old Yeller test.
Right?
Yeah.
So Eggsy fails by not shooting the dog and is kicked from spy school. Meanwhile, Sam Jackson, you remember him, puts his evil plans into motion and has a bunch of people in a mean church fistfight to rock music till everyone but Colin Firth is dead. Then Colin dies. Sorry.
Yeah. Gets shot in the head.
He gets shot right in the face.
Because it's not this kind of movie.
Now, Sam Jackson's plan of everyone fistfighting to death across the globe is about to be set into motion, but Eggsy and Merlin, sans beard and magic powers, plus jet plane and assault rifle, storm Sam Jackson's secret lair, explode everyone's head, and Eggsy lands some random sexy time with a princess.
Now, when you say, like, explode everyone's head, it's not a metaphor.
It is not a metaphor. He doesn't shoot them. They literally detonate everyone's head in beautiful fireworks display. Guys, that was the recap. So now we'll be going into our Punch-Out.
Punch-Up!
Oh!
Sorry, man, we have to do it.
Listen, everyone that comes on the podcast has to get punched in the face. That's how it works.
Oh, it sounds so real on the podcast because it's absolutely real.
It's absolutely true every time.
So how are we going to do this? Are we going to do the old school LD, Lincoln Douglas?
Yeah, it's going to be nothing but bare knuckles. You can use tape.
Well, should we do high points first? Because I did, despite coming in as the... What's the opposite of devil's advocate?
Angels,
God. So despite coming in as the Messiah and
Jesus.
Despite coming in as the heavy and saying I didn't like this movie and challenging you guys, basically, I did enjoy a lot of parts of the movie. And one of the first things is probably Sam Jackson. I didn't expect to like his villain, and Jay and I have talked about this. I don't like villains I can't take seriously. Like, I have a real problem with The Fifth Element. Purely, it starts and ends with Gary Oldman's accent.
Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg.
Because I cannot take him seriously as a villain, and I was really nervous that Samuel L. Jackson's lisp would have the same effect on me. And it kind of... I didn't love the lisp, but I was fine with it. And he's an interesting villain because... I was sort of surprised it's Sam Jackson, because I feel like it should have been, like, Justin Timberlake, or someone, like, because he's sort of this, like, new money, kind of, like, he's the billionaire who dresses in a baseball cap and, like, jeans, and he's just, like,
and eats McDonald's.
And eats McDonald's, like, recreationally, like, as an adult. And he's sort of interesting because he's a villain who's aware of the tropes, and he doesn't like blood, and he doesn't like violence, but he has this agenda. And I liked him because he was creepy to me in the way that he's very... polite, and I always like polite villains and courteous villains. And
because the best villain is the kind of villain that is actually civilized.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like, how can you be so evil and so kind at the same time?
But he's interesting because he's not civilized in the way that our heroes are civilized. He's not Hans Gruber, who's in the suit, where our heroes are in a tank top. It's the reverse, where he's in these, like, you know, hoodies and baseball caps all the time, and everyone else is in suits, but he's still, like... respected, and he's still brilliant, and he's still very, very friendly and very affable. And there's a great scene where he and Colin Firth talk about spy movies, and that's really what the movie is about. It's very referential to old spy movies to a degree, where they're talking about, like, oh, modern spy movies are too dark and mature, and they talk about how much they like old Bond movies, and it's a really great scene of them sizing each other up.
What's really funny about this is, so Mike has been brought here in the dislike column of this movie, and I've been brought here in the like column of this movie.
Well, you were already here. It's your show. But
listen,
I imagine what you're about to say is that some of Mike's points for likes might actually be some of your points for even dislikes.
That is
Todd.
incredibly correct, because I turned to Jay like right after the movie. I was like, that was great. Did you find Sam Jackson, like the portrayal of Sam Jackson as a villain? a little racist. And he was just like, I don't know about that. And I was just like, okay, let's just examine like what's going on here.
Okay.
The only person of color in the entire movie is Sam Jackson. He's also the villain. He wears backwards hats and like it is like, you know, like, I'm wearing like these kind of like cool clothes, you know, all this kind of stuff. Oof. And then in the pivotal scene that you spoke of where they size each other up, he offers McDonald's.
That's true. That's an apt point.
This scene was a little bit troublesome for me, but I chose because he was, like you said, such a great, funny, great character.
He's engaging.
That I chose to enjoy the character and forget some of these little depictions because I was a little bit...
He is actually not the only person of color. Barack Obama's in the movie and his head explodes.
That is true. There is this one shot where it pulls back and they insinuate, which is so bold, actually. That's such an amazing point.
We have to at least address this for 1 second. Guys, for a whole film that got so much press over the last few months about killing a world leader...
Yes, the interview, which we did another episode on, an entire episode.
Yeah.
How it was so outrageous that they blew up Kim Jong-un's head.
Meanwhile, in Kingsman,
they
snuck it in there.
Not just Barack Obama.
Our own president, they blow up his head. It's incredible. They
don't stop at Obama.
Yeah,
they get everyone in his room. They get everyone in like cabinet, Sweden. They got a lot of world leaders.
Yeah, they made like the Prime Minister of Sweden evil.
Yeah,
it's a fun movie, but we have a few different feelings on it. So
that's a punch out.
Would you like to go first?
Certainly, yeah. Okay. Well, I guess because I'm the challenger.
Yeah,
I'm trying to take
Who
your belt.
invited you?
I mean, we did already punch him, so we did draw first blood.
That's true. That's true.
So now you can return fire, Mike. So kick things off with things you didn't like.
Things I didn't like. I think the story was predictable more than it wasn't. It felt a lot of the times, especially the early setup, kind of paint by numbers-y. Because, like, of course he's got a terrible home life. Of course he's got a shitty stepdad. Of course he hits his wife. Of course there's an innocent baby in the house. Like, of course all these things. His stepdad's so terrible that he's actively suggesting threesomes in front of his son. Like, he's, like, comically, cartoonishly terrible. And I know that's, like, somewhat the point, but, like, I've seen that. It's the Star Trek movie by J.J. Abrams, and it's great. And, like, I've seen that character who steals cars and gets in bar fights and has no purpose in life despite being incredibly gifted and incredibly, like, he doesn't commit to anything. It felt very deliberately kind of like emotionally manipulative, which is the point of movies. Like, that's what we go to movies for. I'm not a moron.
There is a book called Save the Cat, which I believe is about emotional manipulation.
And that actually happens. It's a great moment where he steals the car from the thug and then does 15 donuts in front of the guy. Like, there's no attempt to be subtle. It's like, haha, I'm blowing you off and flipping him the bird and all these things, or the V. And then this cop chases them and Eggsy's driving backwards. And it feels like that should have been a more impressive action scene, and it doesn't play like one. It doesn't play like an action scene, but he's driving backwards down the highway.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that the Save the Cat
and then that's what I'm getting to, because the chase ends when there's a cat in the alley, and he swerves to miss it, and he crashes into a lamppost, and the chase ends. The street kids say, you should have just let that cat die. There's so many cats out there. Like, it's just a stray.
I think that's the joke. The Save the Cat moment in that scene is when he says, get out of the car.
Yeah.
And then he rams the police, making it to where, like, he's going to be the only one that goes to jail.
Which is an interesting parallel to his father. He's sacrificing himself so that others can keep going.
Yeah.
But it also feels like you needed that scene, but you didn't really try to make it more emotionally investing. Because that scene doesn't play like... I wasn't engaged with Eggsy the way I wanted to be in that scene. I also feel like Harry Hart, who's Colin Firth's character, is a bully and a psychopath. Because the bar fight at the beginning...
Okay, real quick, before we get into how Colin Firth is a bully and a psychopath, because that's a great touch point. Todd, do you have any... do you have a rebuttal? Do you have a rebuttal to the statement about Eggsy's origin, how he's introduced in the film, and kind of our emotional connection to Eggsy early on?
I mean, it's just a tomato situation. You said those are things that are supposed to make me care about the character, except you didn't find that they did.
Right.
But I understand what you mean in that what's missing is, I don't know what it would be, but a moment where we understand who he is specifically.
What would have been interesting, maybe, is to see Eggsy interact with a stranger to him. So a lot of ways you can learn how people treat people is not how they interact with people day in and day out, but how they interact with people they don't know.
Sure. To take an example, a really weird one, like Aladdin. In the beginning of Aladdin, he's like run around and we're like, oh, this guy's a thief. And then the two like...
And then he gives bread to those little kids.
Yeah.
That he doesn't even know.
Which, by the way, is a textbook Save the Cat moment.
It's straight up.
But it works.
But it works. And so I see. That's why I'm saying I see what you mean, but at the same time, like
I think it comes down to an execution problem.
The moment where he said, get out of the car. I think that was the moment, but maybe that needed to be before, so that we understood, like, oh, he's like a good guy. We like him. That kind of thing.
Right. So I think we've addressed that point. I say we move on to the point now that is. Colin Firth is a psychopath.
Bullying a psychopath.
Okay, cool.
Because they're in this bar. And again, I'm not saying that he's entirely wrong in the scene. I think it comes down to how it's executed and sort of the tone of Mark Millar comics and adaptations thereof. But Colin Firth's in this scene in the pub where he's talking to Eggsy, and he's already bailed him out at this point. And he says, I knew your dad, and he was a great guy. And these thugs come in, and they're obviously perturbed that Eggsy's not in prison for stealing their car. And then he has this moment where it's like this movie moment, it's in the trailer, where he locks the doors, and he says, manners make the man. Who can tell me what that means? And basically teaches them a lesson by beating the shit out of them. By using his superior training technology, and he electrocutes one of them, and he has a gun in his umbrella that fires stun pellets, and he gives the bartender amnesia with his watch, and then he leaves, and those guys need medical attention in a bad way. There's one more black guy in the movie. He's the only one who's stabbed, and he is bleeding out. Like, it is a problem from a racial perspective, but also, like, they are not going to learn the lesson. Like, because you gave...
They don't. By the end of the movie, we clearly know that they have not learned.
It is an ineffective lesson at the end of the movie, because they have not learned anything. And he's letting off steam, which he says. And then he sits down and finishes a Guinness. Project placement aside, it's a funny moment, but also when you look at it objectively, I'm frightened of that character. Eggsy's like, whoa, I'm frightened by you, but like, that was cool. And yes, all of those things are true, but also that was entirely one-sided.
I mean, yeah, that's every action scene in any superhero movie where a bunch of guys are being assholes in a bar or in any location.
Yeah, we've seen it 100 times.
This guy comes in and he's just like, that wasn't very nice, or some other line like that.
Yeah, or like, you don't talk to ladies that way, or whatever it is, like
and
Roadhouse,
then teaches them a lesson, and then, and then walks away, and everyone's like, but they're not gonna die.
Look, the scene changed, so they're fine.
The black guy might die.
Their scene changed. We went to the next scene, so they're fine.
You turn the page, there's more books, so it's good.
No, it's okay.
The thing is, like, they don't die, but like, that black guy did get stabbed, and that was a real problem for me. And he sits down and finishes the beer, and it's played for laughs, but also, it's this weird moment where, like, I care about Colin Firth to a point, but I also am very aware that, like, he's this gentleman, stuffy guy, and so when we get to the fact that they take no credit, there's a moment where we find out that Colin Firth has pinned up, which it's weird that he doesn't frame them, but he pins up the headlines for every day when he saved the world, and it's never been the headline.
And what headline was the day that he said save the world, what headline it was that was not anything involved, and it's always something silly.
Inane or mundane.
Because it's a New York Post kind of publication that just,
Yeah, it was like some kind of celebrity gossip.
Yeah,
but it's not even that. I think it's meant to be the regular headline, and it's just like, this happens to be a slow news day, except no one knew. No one knew that they were so close to, that I rescued Princess Diana, or whatever it is.
Yeah, which is badass, Mike.
No, I'm all for that. That feels petty to me. That feels, because he doesn't say, we don't ask for credit. He says, no one ever thanks us. And it's a very,
he never says, no one ever thanks us.
I feel like he does, though. He doesn't say it as if, like, and that's our lot in life. Like, he doesn't say it like that's the job. Because because Men in Black,
I think you just
Men in Black does a great job with that.
I know.
Men in Black does a great job of we're the no one. We're the invisible line. And we're the people that no one knows.
I think where this is all stemming from is you just got off on the wrong foot with all of these characters.
I think that's part of it.
I
think it's how it's presented
right off the bat. I have this theory. I have this thing, right? Okay, that the first 10 minutes of a film teaches you how to watch the rest of the film.
Yeah.
It's like a thesis or a hypothesis, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And in that 10 minutes, you're basically given a pill. Like, Morpheus is, like, standing there with 2 pills, and you're basically given a pill, and you either choose to, except there's only one, and you either choose to swallow it or reject it.
Uh-huh.
It's the hypothesis pill. You're like, okay, this is the movie that we're about to give you. What do you think? And most people, whether they're conscious of it or not, make the decision in the first 10 minutes whether they're going to swallow that pill and be like, I'm along, I'm good for the ride, strap me in, I'm interested. And then depending on if they, the movie could turn out not so good, but in that moment they're making the decision to enjoy the film consciously or subconsciously. And if they don't, at no point, unless the rest of the film, which is rare, is just so damn good, the rest of the movie, they're just not going to like the film, no matter what, and they're going to find, things about it.
To your point, I enjoyed a lot of the movie, and these things in the back of my mind, like, oh, that was kind of silly. oh, that could have been done better.
Yeah.
And a lot of the movie, I was like on board. I think it's uneven, and then it really lost me in the third act. That's where it turned around. That's where I started, like, because I was going through the movie.
Before or after the church scene?
After the church scene.
Because it's sort of a finale in the movie.
So to kind of recap, so, you know, we've talked a little about Eggsy's origin. We've talked a little bit about Colin Firth and just how these kind of characters are introduced. So now I think we're going into the infamous, or probably will soon be infamous, church scene of Kingsman. And if you don't remember this scene, I don't know how, or you blacked it out of just sure whatever happened. Essentially, Colin Firth and everybody inside take like 5 minutes to graphically kill each other.
Because Sam Jackson turns on his little machine thing.
And they all just go super violent.
Which turns on like a thing in the head where
Reavers and...
Yep. Turns them into Reavers. But they all go nuts and they all want to kill each other, including our hero, or one of our heroes in this scene. And because we know he's superior and he's like he turns into a death, like a killing machine,
right?
And he ends all the people in the church in the most graphic way possible.
Which is an interesting perspective to see, like, what these types of characters, these Kingsmen, can look like when they're turned on to like a rage type extreme. Like, interesting to see, like, these gentlemen spies. You know, they are crafty, they have one-liners, they have guns and things, but they are trained weapons, and it is interesting to see a trained weapon fully unleashed with reckless abandon.
There's finesse in the bar scene, and there's not finesse.
There's no finesse. I mean, he kills people with pretty much anything and everything. I think he like skull kicks somebody into an accordion type shape, and drops a bomb in his pocket.
He axes a woman in the face. There's like it's an outrageous scene. Other movies would like show him killing a few people, cut to outside, and he's the only one that walks out.
Right.
This movie shows you there's about maybe 100 people in there. He kills every single one of them if they haven't killed each other already.
And the other thing that it's
outrageous.
The other thing they do is they're tight on him. That's an interesting approach. It's not like an action scene where he's moving through the room. It is, but it's not like an action scene where he's moving through the room. We're going into close and we're coming in out and we're like changing angles. We're tight on him the whole way. And we're always in his face, which is very deliberate, that you're like, it feels like you're frenetic. It's a well-staged scene. It's a really well-staged scene. Despite... I have issues with CG violence in general, but you have a little bit of it. I prefer
real violence in my movies.
I hope all those people were actually killed.
I think there's a little bit of it in this movie.
I hope that woman gets better, gets that axe taken out of her skull.
But also, I think it's a very well staged scene. It's a very well done scene. My issue is the rock music. I think it shouldn't have had rock music because that's a horrifying moment for everyone watching. Yeah. Because you have Eggsy and you have Arthur watching on these screens and being like, oh shit, what is he doing? But the music should be like this moment of like, oh shit. This went way wrong, and it's rock music, and that feels like tonally, like tone deaf to me.
I hear this point.
Yeah,
I hear this point. If it was a music that at least maybe started with rock music and then went into like another movie would have done it where like, and here's maybe a punch up. You take the same scene, you start with the rock music, and it's like, whoa, we're having fun, and then suddenly like there's a somber tone that comes up. The music or sound effects of him killing cuts out. It's silent, and there's just like somber tones. As we're watching this man that we're supposed to like destroy, like, okay, they're not innocent people. Like, ideologically, they're not innocent, but that doesn't mean that they deserve, like, to get hacked to pieces.
Yeah.
And so we're watching them, and the characters in the film are watching him do this on their little, like, screens and everything, and they're watching the horror as he's doing this. That would have been a better way to show,
I think the punch-up to have that moment, I don't think you take out the sound effects. I think you have maybe some rock music, and he's breaking bones, he's hurting people, and then he shoots someone in the head. And it's like maybe one of the women he shoots in the head, because to its credit, it doesn't play favorites. He kills everyone evenly.
Yeah,
and like and that moment maybe cuts off the rock music.
Yeah,
and that's the moment where it's like, oh, he's murdering, and then the murder continues, or it's just strings or something.
I think as well, like, because the scene is very interesting how it keeps the rock music in there, because like you said, it's a deliberate choice to follow Colin Firth in the scene, and most other times you would be cutting to different, look at the wild zaniness with this rock music, but the fact
or at least changing the angle on Colin Firth.
Right, but still, like, the fact that it follows tight to him the whole time is really like us waiting for, like, oh, they're gonna cut a... Well, they're still on him. Nope, they're still there. I mean, Todd, I think you and I talked about it.
Kill everyone, are we?
Right?
Yeah.
I think you and I talked about this when we walked to the theater. Like, if that scene was like maybe 5 seconds longer, 30 seconds longer, everybody might have been like turning in the theaters like, no, we're not still doing this, are we?
We can't do this anymore. This is too much.
Like, okay, we get it. All right. So I think we've kind of come to an agreement about the church scene, which is great.
Right.
Yeah. So now let's go into kind of the ending of the film. So which one of you guys would kind of like to take point on your feelings towards the end?
I'll kick it off. I really like the ending because we've spent this entire spy movie where it was just like, we're training and like the training process and the elimination process and all this kind of stuff. And then he doesn't get it, which is great. And who does?
It's a nice
the girl.
Subversion,
it's a nice little, like it's a great, this whole shit is going down where Sam Jackson has all these world leaders and etc. at this underground cave lair.
This incredibly James Bondian underground cave lair.
In like
almost a volcano lair.
Right,
yeah,
in the middle of the
like
Alps. It's very, very James Bond.
Yeah.
So here's this scene where we've spent the entire movie waiting to see some of like, Eggsy kind of like get into some spy shit.
Yeah.
He suits up. He's got like, he chooses of the weapons that he has to choose. He chooses Harry's
the
umbrella, which
Yeah.
is a really wonderful
that is a
device.
really nice moment. Yeah.
And then he basically has to just roll through a bunch of guys that are, a bunch of baddies who...
the extras from Inception, from the snow scene. They took the extras from the snow scene and were like, we've got some left over, let's put them in this lair.
They were still there.
Those guys are on discount, I have to imagine.
From the Bond film, they hadn't worked for a long time, and then they got reused in Inception, and then they were like... Matthew Vaughn called them up and said, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh, we're just hanging out.
We just ski and we snowboard around.
We're just hanging out in this mountain base, waiting for some people to come fight us.
We're at the lodge, ski bumming it. You want to, we just have hot cocoa and we practice shooting on targets while we ski.
Maybe that's what's on the other side of that mountain. It's the one side is the ski, is the fortress for Inception, but the other side,
ski lodge,
the other side that they part time.
Yeah.
So those guys part time different jobs.
That's
basically.
right. Yeah, they're ski.
What detail are you on today? I'm on Inception detail. What about you? Oh, I'm working over in Kingsman Lodge.
I heard that's a breeze. Nothing's ever going to happen.
It's just
over
a
there.
continual, like, this is in this universe, that one mountain is just crazy.
Those henchmen are just on rotation for all different villainies.
Right. Okay, we've gotten way off.
Yeah, okay, let's get
But basically,
back on
like, we've had this entire movie where we want to see Eggsy suit up, and then he gets to, and he, like, ends all these guys. There's a moment where they're not going to be, there's too many guys, and they're not going to be able to do it. And he tells Merlin, he's like, can't you, like, reverse the thing?
Hack into the thing.
Yeah, and basically, he, like, there's this sequence where they explode everyone's heads.
Not just in the base, but anyone who's working with him who's like hiding out.
Obama's.
Including the presidential cabinet and any other like world leader or anything from anywhere else that, they explode everyone's heads and, this amazing music happens. It's this hilarious, like very cartoonish, no blood. You would imagine this is very violent.
It's very technicolor, like mushroom clouds of blue and orange.
It's like it's actually beautiful.
It really is.
It's really amazing.
It's a stunning visual scene.
And then there's a fight scene that has dance music in the background with
breakdancing moves, basically.
Yeah, with breakdancing moves with this like the Eggsy all suited up and cool, and the main henchman who is a henchwoman of Sam Jackson, who's this paraplegic who has like these razor sharp.
She has razors for prosthetic legs.
Legs, and it's like really cool character.
Please note these are blade high heels because if you see how they're laid out, one part curves down and the blade is actually the heel point, which I think is pretty fantastic.
That's actually one of the greatest characters in the whole movie,
and it looks a lot like actual prosthetic legs. They took something and was like, "Well, what if it was knives?" And it's like, all right, like it's a fun premise.
It's like the Oscar Pretorius legs, but they're like deadly weapons, and they're given to like this femme fatale character. And
yes, I love it.
It's pretty incredible. She's a great character, and it's awesome. Blade Feet and Eggsy get to go at it, and I'm glad that it was them instead of Eggsy and Samuel Jackson because like that would be it wouldn't make sense.
I'm also glad it wasn't Roxy and Blade Girl.
Yes,
I'm really glad it wasn't
like the two girls.
It wasn't the girl fight.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even though, unfortunately, her name's Roxy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at the end of the film, Roxy gets nothing to do because
she's sidelined.
She's totally sidelined after she blows up the satellite. She just comes back.
No, she calls Eggsy's mom. That's actually.
Oh, she does get something to do.
Well, but this brings me to my point. I'm sorry to cut off the ending a little bit early, but
she does get something to do, but it is kind of
it's
a
not her thing. It's not her
thing.
Thing to do. I know he's doing other things, but again, he's got an earwig. He's talking to Merlin. Put him on the phone with his mom and say not just hide my sister. Maybe she doesn't believe him at first, and he says, "I know I'm a fuck up, and I know that you can't trust me anymore. I need you to do this one thing for me, and you can never ask why. And I promise I'm gonna figure my life out. I just need you to do this one thing. It needs to be him because I'm thinking of the scene in Die Hard when he can't get the message to Holly." So he gets the message to Al, and there's the beautiful line of, she's heard me say I love you 100 times. She never heard me say I'm sorry. We would finally get to have Eggsy, because Colin Firth calls him out. He says, it's never your fault, is it? Because Eggsy keeps blaming the fact that he flunked out of the Marines because of his mom, or flunked out of life because of his stepdad, or whoever it is. He finally takes responsibility. He finally says, I'm a fuck up, and I'm sorry.
So here's where your first point comes into play. Mm-hmm. What we need, and I 100% am in agreement about this in terms of our main character.
Yeah.
Everything else I really like. But in terms of our main character, I will agree with you. We need, because what you basically just identified is an ending that would be really nice to see, right?
Exactly.
For the character to be resolved.
We've got the fun, we've got the flair, we've got the sexy, but a nice emotional hook.
Right.
Yeah.
But what you've created is an ending for something that was never there in the beginning to set up. So what we need...
It's so close to set up.
It's so
Colin
close.
Firth says it, but we don't get it with Eggsy.
But it's a fine line, but what it really is an internal flaw.
Yeah.
Because what we have are external flaws. His father dies, not his fault. His situation sucks. His mother is is with this thug guy.
Maybe there's some substance abuse. There's definitely
there's definitely physical
abuse.
Their life, they obviously don't make a lot of money. There's a kid that they really aren't taking care of.
Negligent. Yeah.
There's not a lot that's his fault. Other people say you've got a chip on your shoulder, but what we really need is a moment where he does something bad. There's got to be something that he does that's his fault, that's directly related to him, so that the rest of the movie is spent making up for this, instead of stealing a car to prove a point against the guy who was already an asshole who deserved it.
I think what could work is that same scene you tack on, remember, Eggsy, you need to come home at 6 because you need to watch your sister.
Yes.
I'm going to be out with stupid
and he gets
douchebag
drunk.
Father. He gets, not only drunk,
because of his
but he goes on a
hubris,
joyride and he gets taken to jail and doesn't get to make it home in time.
You even have the line where the cop says, I hope your phone calls to your mom to tell her you're going to be 18 months late to dinner.
What that creates, this little punch-up, right? And you're right, it's so simple.
All the pieces are there.
It's so simple. All it needs is this one little change. What that creates is he is a character in need of reformation, in need of redemption. Mm-hmm. He's a flawed character, and part of his education by Harry Hart and the Kingsman is learning how to be a gentleman, which... One of the other things I was like, that was a little too much, but I'll take it, is at the end there's this moment where he's promised anal sex with a princess.
That is my next point. We'll get there in just a minute.
in a jail cell that's in Samuel Jackson's complex that of people that were not able to comply with his orders. So what this situation of fixing the beginning would almost, in a way, I mean, that's a little gratuitous, this scene, it's lifted straight from a comic book page. It would almost solve it, because what it would do is, he's an asshole, he reforms, he becomes a gentleman, but there's still a little rascal in him,
That's what I want.
Yeah.
It's meant to be that he's he's still that
he's
same
still
old
a rascal.
asshole.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm sorry that we're using that pun word in the context. but the point is, I want to see that. I want to see that he's because there's a line that Colin Firth says, which is a Hemingway quote, where he says, superiority isn't...
The line is, it's not being superior to those around you, it's being superior to your former self.
But what if he finds a different way? And he finds the balance between himself. What makes him a Kingsman and what made him a street rascal is finding the combination between those two. He is not Colin Firth, and he's never going to be Colin Firth. He finds the balance. He's a little bit both. Maybe he's winning this fight because he's a street punk. And if
so
he's
that's there.
And if he's a jerk,
you're right.
And if he's a jerk,
right.
that fixes my scenes with Colin Firth, where he says things like, "Why do you have all these pinups of these headlines?" Well, it's because these are the headlines. Why didn't you ever take credit? That's not what we do. Because here's my problem, and this comes into the end of the movie.
Yeah.
The movie didn't commit to being a parody. Because it's not an Austin Powers movie, and nor should it have been.
But it does have parody elements.
But it has parody elements
of spy films.
It's not quite Hot Fuzz. It's not quite even Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Or Armand Flint kind of.
Yeah, it's closer to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang than anything else, because they're really just talking about the things and not completely turning them on their head.
Right.
It's not subversive. It's self-aware. And that's an important distinction, because at the end, the girl is still sidelined and he still gets a sex prize. Literally,
You're right.
A princess in a dungeon. He saves a princess in a dungeon, and here's all I wanted in that scene.
But that would have worked if...
No, here's my fix for that scene.
He was a little rascal.
If he's a rascal, which he kind of is, that's what the scene plays as. You don't need to incentivize him to save the world. We are seeing his mom about to kill his half-sister.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, I'll save the world if I get to put it in the butt." And it's
that's exactly
that's when I stopped rooting for him and really started turned on the movie that I'd just seen. But here's what I wanted, is when he's got the champagne and he's got the glasses, and I told Jay this is part of why I ended up on the show, is because I want that moment of him like unlocking the door and be like, thanks Merlin, you're a peach, and he opens the door, and she just would storm out and say, let's start unlocking cells. And he would say, wait, what about? And she's like, are you kidding me right now? And he'd be like, oh. And he'd be like, oh, Eggsy, you've learned so little. And it's like, that's all I wanted, was for her to not just literally be a sex prize. I know it's a send-up, because it's literally the same end as, like, World is Not Enough, or any of these things, where literally, like, World is Not Enough, they're watching it happen, and then they turn off the monitors, and they're like, well, let him have his sex prize. And, like,
it's like every Bond
at the very least, those girls, and not to say that Bond movies are necessarily defensible in their treatment of women, especially in some cases, but at least they're there with him through the movie. This is some random girl, and she says, like, she offers it.
Here's how to subvert it. If, like, the whole movie, he's like, and when are we going to have, like, sex with women? You know? And, like, exactly. And every time he, like, sees, like, they go on missions, and every time there's, like, a woman in a, you know, somewhere, he's just like, now? Do we have sex now?
It comes back to him asking
and
for
then
credit.
They're just like...
That feeds into my other note of, like, then, what about the credit? You don't even get the women? What's going on,
and
man?
Then every
What's
time
the point
Harry
of
Hart's like,
country?
And every time, like, Harry Hart's like, no, that's not what gentlemen do. And then at the end, we get this moment where he's just like, he turns down the girl, and then Merlin's just like, you know, she's like, oh, you're not interested? And he's just like, can I? And he's just like, I didn't see anything. And then he, you know, and then it's just like, ooh, and he finally, like, gets the girl, but only after he, like, refused or tried to be a gentleman, and he learned how to be a gentleman.
But it still is a sex prize, which really bothers me.
It is a sex prize, but, like, at the same time, and you could do the ending that's like that. The only way that would make it work, where it's not a prize kind of situation, in the same vein, because it still ends with sex, because it's a James Bond send-up, but makes it work, is if they ended up going with him and the other girl have a romantic relationship, and won't they, and then they never get to. Maybe there's, like, a moment of, like...
By the way, it would have been a great line for, in some sort of sex position, Eggsy calls her Lancelot, which would have been a really funny line.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, she's like, take off your pants, Eggsy's like, yes, Lancelot, and then
never call me that.
But here's what that would be: respect.
Right.
It's him learning respect.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that sex prize, quote unquote, work at the end if it's, like, out of, like, that will they, won't they, respect. And then suddenly at the end it's like, you know, now because we both saved the world, we get to have sex now.
That's what it comes down to. She needs something to do.
Yeah.
So if we're coming to the end, kind of our overall punch-ups and what we've kind of discussed in our punch-out here are...
Make him an asshole in the beginning of the film so he can reform, and is an ungentlemanly, uncouth kind of person who needs to learn how to become a gentleman and take responsibility.
Instead of just learning how to murder with impunity.
And then have the female character who goes through the program with him have a bit more to do with the plot and actual finale and shaping of how the heroes, plural, save the day, save the world.
Yeah.
And if you're going to end with some type of sex prize, so to speak,
or some sort of, like, consummation of
them having a romantic relationship that is not able to be consummated until the end, when they both get their cookies.
Because
right?
I understand that this is Hollywood, and to a certain degree, you feel a little cheated. Like, there's still something in the DNA of Hollywood where you kind of want to see at least the kiss.
Yeah, right.
You need something. You just want to make sure it's not him winning her with no agency.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I think that wraps up our punch out, and we've got everybody's kind of made some pretty good pitches on either side.
Sir, well met.
Hands being shaken.
Everyone put on your giant wet steaks on your bloodied eyes, right? That's how they did it back in the old British days. Giant wet steaks. Okay.
Hands being shaken, not stirred.
God.
That's why you got me. That's why.
That's good.
It's true. And on that cue, that's going to take us right into our smash-up.
Smash, 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 smash,
All right, guys, this is the Blockbuster Smash-Up. So this is where we take a globally accepted good film and smash it together with a globally accepted bad film. Now, since we have our guest Mike here, Mike is going to be taking my place this episode. We'll be doing the globally accepted bad film, and Todd will be representing us here for the globally accepted good film, and we shall smash them together for all of your enjoyment and entertainment.
Excellent.
I'm so excited.
All right, guys.
So I can't wait to see how this works with Mike, because, you know, usually it's just me and Jay.
Yeah. On this balloon alone.
I mean, Jay, I'm sure will weigh in as well, but it's great to be able to participate.
All right, guys, here we go on the count of three.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Van
Bill and
Helsing.
Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh no!
It's happening. It's happening.
Oh God! I just saw the fever dream of those two meet together.
So
Van Helsing.
Shit. What did we do? What have we done?
And Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
which is a fantastic movie.
Not bogus, but excellent, right?
Yes.
Excellent
Excellent
Adventure.
Adventure.
So as a quick-
not Bogus Journey, although I like Bogus Journey better, but it's not the globally accepted good
It's
film.
not,
That's
it's not
true.
regarded the
Yes.
same way. That's
So
true.
if nobody knows what those films are,
Shame on
shame
you.
on. Well, maybe on some of them.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Bill and Ted doesn't get the same amount of ink or press that Back to the Future does, but it's a great time travel movie.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
It's Keanu Reeves.
And they time travel through a phone booth.
They have a time traveling phone booth, and they basically abduct people from history for their history report.
And why? Because in the future, their music aligns the planets and causes world peace.
That's right.
So that's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Now, if anyone hasn't seen the film Van Helsing, starring
I'm
Hugh Jackman,
so jealous.
we are all jealous of you.
So
I actually haven't.
oh my God. Okay,
Well, Todd,
so,
then we're
But
going
I
to give you
know
a wonderful...
all the things
so
about it.
here's the thing. Van Helsing seems like, oh, it's a version of Abraham Van Helsing from Dracula. Like, he's just a sexy Hugh Jackman version. No, he's a fucking fallen angel.
What?
He's a fallen angel. He
Yep.
has Wolverine lack of memory. All he remembers is the siege of Rome, which was hundreds of years earlier. He works for the Pope as a supernatural. So the first thing he kills is a giant CGI Mr. Hyde, and then he goes and he fights Dracula, and he teams up with Frankenstein monster, and there's a werewolf.
Who's
Yep.
Kate Beckinsale? Because I know
She's like a countess or something, and she
Okay.
kicks ass, and her brother is a werewolf.
Got it.
And
okay.
then
They threw all the Universal monsters into one film.
How does it end?
he gets turned into a werewolf and kills Kate Beckinsale.
Wait, does he kill the
He
Kate
holds
Beckinsale?
her in his arms, just like in the end of the movie that came out the next year, X-Men: The Last Stand.
Oh,
and he
wow.
literally goes, "No!" And he stands there naked, and then he's cured for whatever reason, because there's a werewolf cure in the movie. And he kills her, and then Dracula fucks off and dies.
All right, guys. So we've got Van Helsing, we've got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So how do we smash these two together?
think it's pretty easy.
I think Gabriel shows up out of time, right, as Rufus Van Helsing. Okay.
But he's
and-
coming from the past or the future? I guess he's a fallen angel. He can be from wherever.
He comes wherever.
He's immortal.
Right. And
He uses the angel phone booth.
comes to Bill and Ted and he's just like, listen, you guys, do I have a story for you, okay? The two of you, your band, Wild Stallions, you're actually going to be turned into centaur people in the future, and you will unite the planets with
Because
your...
as we know, centaurs are the ultimate rockers of all
That's
time.
right.
In all mythology,
they
they're
play
just known
lutes
to be the best.
very, very
Doesn't
well.
get more metal than them centaurs.
That's true.
Right, exactly. You know, horse body,
They
male...
really
They're the
become the
Wild
wild stallions.
Stallions.
They truly be. Thank you. You know what, Todd?
thought-
That makes up for everything. All the other bad puns.
This is why you brought me on here. So they're going to be centaurs. You know, Rufus Van Helsing comes in and is just like, you're going to be centaurs in the future, and your future music, all the monsters and everybody else will just be having a good old time boogieing doing the monster mash to your incredible hit, which is the monster mash.
Right.
But as we know, there's the great villain of the centaurs.
How about this? All of the monsters are learn of this information. The current present day monsters, or present day in this film, I suppose, from the past, right?
Yeah.
And they are like, fuck that! No, Draculas and werewolves and hides, they're the best monsters. We don't want no centaurs up in here who are going to
So
unite the
centaurs
planets.
have been the oppressed supernatural creatures for centuries.
That's right.
And the wild stallions are finally going to bring them back into the fold and unite
and
the
all
supernatural
of the monsters
creatures.
in the world just do not like this information, so they head after Bill and Ted. What
They
Rufus
use Dr.
does-
Frankenstein to make a time machine.
Wait, yeah, Rufus.
And they follow him.
Rufus Van Helsing, gives them for Dr. Frankenstein's number. They call him up, and he's just like, yeah, you know, to make up for that monster thing, I'm gonna give you
For
guys
all those people I killed and all that, I'll make you a time
I'm
machine.
gonna give you guys this time traveling gramophone.
How does a time traveling gramophone work?
You know, you play it backwards, and like some Satan shit starts happening. You know, it's like
Going back through time.
it's like, you know, like, we're the best Swat Stallions, and in the background it's just like
That's really impressive.
That's kind of how it works, right?
So then they unite everybody at the end, and each year they play the same song, which is just the Monster Mash, which is just how they unite everybody.
In a cosmic concert
Exactly.
for all of the
Put
galaxies.
on for all the galaxies.
And all of the times and all of the realms, fantasy, real, wherever, right?
And this film is called Van Helsing's Excellent Adventure.
I guess it has to be. Yeah.
It has to be Van Helsing's Excellent Adventure.
100%.
All right, so this concludes episode 14 of Blockbuster Punch-Out and our review or punch-outing of Kingsman. So as we've kind of come to the end of the show, we're going to kind of tally up the points and see who the victor is in our punch-out, and it seems like Mike is our victor.
I concede. Mike, you made some wonderful points. I actually really... You've now ruined the film. No, but
which is really the point of the show.
Listen, I still love this movie and will remember it fondly. Because I'll never watch it again. But but like
movies are expensive, guys.
But it is you've made the protagonist in this film a lot stronger than he is presented in the film, and for that I commend you.
Thanks, sir.
And I give you this giant belt.
Oh my god, it's so... Where was this?
We've kept it... Well, actually,
Jay and I just pass it back and forth.
Yeah, and it actually keeps the strings of the balloon tethered to the back. So we're actually plummeting to the earth.
Well, we should wrap up.
Yeah, so we should wrap this up.
I'm not giving it back.
As always, we'll be posting a new episode every other week. Please leave us a review or any other comments on iTunes. It really helps people find the show. And if you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts like Because Comics...
That sounds like a good show.
Yeah, head over to partialarc.com. That's arc with a C. Of course, you can email us any questions at blockbusterpunchup@gmail.com or let us know what punch-ups you might have had for Kingsman. We'd love to hear them. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at partialarc, and you can follow Todd on Twitter and Instagram at TG11, and of course, you can check out more from Mike at supergeekmike.com. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode of Blockbuster Punch-Up!
Let's go home.